just be yourself is some of the best dating advice that you could get. Just when people say, look, just be yourself, is probably the best dating advice you're gonna get. That's very overrated. I know everyone likes to say it a lot. And even, getting it as advice, it can seem not very helpful. Because I've had people tell me, just be yourself and like follow your heart and like the BS like that. But actually it's true. It's the best dating advice and like best, even just social advice in life. Just be yourself is very true. It's actually the best advice that you're going to get. There are certain things that really you have to understand about human dynamics, the way that other people respond to you as a person. They're only going to respond to you if you're being your most true, authentic self. Obviously, you're here because you want to know about dating advice and like how that pertains to women and why is being yourself the best thing that you can do. First of all, if we need to address that when it comes to men and women, their gender dynamics, when it comes to them being attracted to each other, looks are not that big of a deal for women. And what I mean is women liking men. They don't really take looks into a factor as much as men do for women. Now, obviously, there's a certain extent that they'll go. If they don't like a certain race, they don't like a certain look to a guy. That's clearly a thing. But women do not like men for looks. It's more about aura. It's more about the silent surroundings, sort of unspoken, not seen. It is quiet. There's just something about if a man has a certain level of aura, sort of confidence around him, women can tell that, and then most people can tell that actually. Women can tell that, and then they find that very attractive. They're attracted to a man's certain aura, which his aura comes out through confidence, through self-assurance, knowing who he is, and not getting offended and things like that. That's why getting offended is one of the worst things you do when it comes to talking to a woman, is because it sort of breaks the illusion of your confidence. Even a lot of people say that women put on makeup and men tell lies, is because women are more visual creatures, and so men will like women who are visually attractive. Men, there's a reason why men don't wear makeup, is because it's more about what a man says, and what he's saying sort of projects his aura. But actually, aura, a lot of the time, is often unspoken. You could get a script of like a guy who has slept with a lot of women, and if you recite yourself, if you don't really have that confidence and aura about you, it's not really going to come off as convincing. You're sort of like an actor playing a part. And that's not to say a lie, because again, you should be your authentic self, but I'll get to that. So like I said, every man needs a certain level of aura around him, something that's not seen, that's not heard. It's just felt, sort of through his presence, and the way he talks, and the way he moves and holds himself. And people can tell that. Even you can tell that when you talk to people. You can talk to a teacher or an older person. They sort of hold the frame. They're holding the frame, and they're sort of like speaking in a commanding way, because they have that experience with having confidence. Now, the thing is, you actually need confidence to have a certain level of aura. So that's actually good news for people who think there's ugly, because there's a lot of like ugly guys. There's guys who look like ogres or like a toad with like the 10 out of 10 girl. And most people think it's, confusing. They're kind of like, how does that happen? It's like, it's not really surprising once you understand that women are more emotional creatures and not as much visual as men are when needing to like women. So, we've established that the way you get more attracted to women is through having more aura. Now, how do you get more aura? Well, like I said, it comes through confidence. It comes through having a positive self-image about yourself, which is what confidence is. It comes from having a good frame and sort of knowing how to project that outward. And it also comes from being self-assured, which causes you to not get offended. And you're not going to take anything seriously or to heart, because you sort of know who you are and you know what ground you stand on. And you see how this is all leading us back to being who you are. I spoke in a previous video about how you should not try to be someone else's archetype. Everyone has an archetype that is sort of fitted to. There's like certain roles. There's like you can be a rake for women. There's siren, but like there's different roles that you can fall into. And the thing is, for men, a lot of them will see that women like a certain archetype and they'll try and emulate it. But it really goes horribly wrong, because that's not their archetype that they sincerely fit in. The only way you can be confident is being your most sincere and upfront self, just by being completely open and honest, with no sort of resistance about you. And the only way you can do that is by being your most true self, by being honest, by being open, and that makes you confident. Unless you're a really good like liar, even a really good liar, they can't pretend to play a role for like more than a few months at a time. It happens a lot. Like people who are undercover, a lot of spies, you watch a lot of movies, people, they go undercover for a certain amount of time, but you really can't change who you are, like, at your core. That is why I think you should just be your most honest self. You need to be your most honest self if you're going to try to convince other people. This is sort of like a game. Like, you're trying to, let's see if you can convince other people that you are confident and you are self-assured. That's not going to happen if you're always insecure and you're worried about the way you look, and you think this about this guy, this about this girl, it's all going to work if you really be yourself. Now, how do you be yourself? Well, and being yourself is not to say that you can never change or do any improvement to who you already are as a person. You do have an archetype, like I mentioned. But what comes from being yourself is, well, confidence comes from confidence. I always say that. But more importantly than that is sort of know who you are and then being okay with it. That's the thing. For you to do this, there's an actionable step. And that first step is do a self-examination. Lay out just who you are, everything as a person. Your likes, your dislikes, your interests, your hobbies, everything about you. And if there's things you like, then you accept that. Know who you are, know what you like. Like, I like the color red. I like having long hair. I like wearing the color black. But there are things about yourself that you don't like. Then you either need to be working to change them or just have changed them completely. So the thing is, if there's a guy, and let's say he's not the most ripped, but he doesn't like the fact that he's fat and he's working out, that's still the credit because he knows who he is. He knows, okay, I don't like being fat, so I'm going to work very hard to achieve that and rectify that certain, let's call it disparity in himself. You see how through self-examination, you have to know who you are and be okay with it. And if there are things that you are okay with, you need to be working to fix them. And that sort of know who you are and like know where you stand just in life and like the things that you want, your goals, are going to help you come across as self-assured. And when people try to attack you for things that you know that you are trying to improve upon, or things that like they attack you for liking the color red, say, yeah, I like the color red. Or yes, I like this TV show. Or yes, I come from a certain background. And just sort of own it. And if you don't like it, then you do need to change it. But there are certain things about you that you can't change. Like, for instance, where you come from, you just gotta learn to be okay with it. Like, like wear it like a badge. So all of these things are going to make you become more self-assured and thereby much more confident because there's not really anything people could say in a conversation that would sort of put you down and make you feel worse. So take this advice, do a self-examination, and know who you are. I cannot understate that phrase. Know who you are and be okay with it. And then that is going to make you much more okay with yourself, which will make you more okay with others, which creates confidence.